Welcome to the Anyone Can Farm live chat Tuesday night edition. I'm Mark, your host. Ooh, things are not quite straight yet. Oh, you know what? Oh, this. We got garlic on one side and the American flag on the other. All right, right on, man. We've got a great show for you tonight. I'm Mark, your host, coming to you from Baker's Green Acres. Today is the 10th of August, 2024. And I bet you we're going to struggle with numbers tonight of people wanting to hear what I have to say because of the presidential debate going on. I'm not sure what time it starts, but I'm probably going to watch it tonight when I get done. You never know. It might be kind of fun. But I got something to talk to you about tonight. But first of all, let me take care of announcements. November 1st, 2nd, and 3rd is going to be our 14th annual Homestead Hog Harvest. And this is a class that we do here at Baker's Green Acres where you show up, we have a quick meet and greet, and then we go right to butchering pigs. We 12 people in the class, so we wind up with 4 groups of 3. So we go out and harvest 2 pigs, bring them in, scald, scrape, and the students, it's very hands-on. All right, so, all right, who do we got with us tonight? We got Keith and we got Rachel, but Rachel's saying, I'm off to bed. Wanted to say hi. She goes to bed early. 8 o'clock, isn't it, Rachel? Yeah, 8:03. Wow. She gets up early. She lives with a machinist and they get up real early. All right, so Homestead Hog Harvest, I think there's 6 people in the class, so we're half full. If you want to come, you're going to have to contact us and let us know. We take a deposit. It is a couple months off, but we want to make sure that every seat is full. If you want to come, you got to make sure and get that done. Now, this is a skill that you will learn, that you take home with you, that no one will ever take away from you. So it's some of the best instruction that you can get in the homesteading small farms business because it opens up a lot of avenues to you. If you are a proficient butcher, even if you're not proficient, if you can do it well enough, you are ahead of the game. All right. Now, a lot of people might be thinking, well, I'm never going to be a butcher. Well, a lot of the folks that have taken the class, they have regular jobs. They're homesteaders. They don't plan on being butchers, but they do want to be able to prepare live animals for their family, which is a really smart thing to be able to do. The quicker or the more you can cut down the supply chain, the safer you are. And I don't need to say in these times, but you remember during COVID, you couldn't get into a butcher, and that's how we met the Stumpos. We would have never met them if it wasn't for COVID. So praise COVID, right? I got mosquitoes in here tonight. Maybe just one. All right. If it was only one, it's gone. But I have to have the door open. There's another one. It was 80 degrees here today, and tomorrow's going to be even warmer, right? So if you want a beach day, tomorrow's the day to do it. All right, so that's that. And the next class after that is going to be in December, and that is the charcuterie class. And that class is slightly different. We start out with pigs that have already been slaughtered. Again, we have teams of 3. We go through the cut up, the primal cut breakdown, and then we break down some of those primal cuts into subprimals. And then we go into the curing process. And that one is only a 2-day class. All right. The other one is 3 days. The first day is the slaughter process and organ preparation. The second day, we go through the entire cut-up process and packaging, start to learn how to package. And then we go into the grinding, sausage, and bacon making. So we're just getting into the charcuterie end of things. And then the class is over on Sunday. So it goes really quick, really fun. You'd be eating with us the whole time, get to try out the new cafe. It might be a little chilly then, but people have camped here during that time. So the campground will be open if you want to come with your pull behind camper or I don't know, a truck camper or something like that. You'd be more than welcome, and you could really save some bucks on lodging. Other than that, you'd have to stay downtown. We don't have lodging for you yet. But, we've been doing these classes long enough where we know that we're going to continue to do it. And the next step is to build lodging for people, and we're working on that right now. We have one cabin built, but it's not complete. But my goal is to have several places where people can stay, and so that would alleviate a lot of problems. All right. So that's that. Okay. My day today went sort of like this. Tuesdays I milk, so me and Frank were at it. And Jill and I start the day by sitting out in the back here, drinking coffee, and then going in the pool to get our plunging done. And then we sit there and we talk about things. And this morning we started talking about planning where we're going to dedicate resources for the milking operation, because that's kind of in the forefront of my mind right now. I have definitely other projects I'm working on, but that one is right there because it's an exciting project and we like it. We've had good luck with it. We've made good money with it, and we want to continue it. And that way we have surplus funds to sink into other things. Our goal is to expand the farm to its fullest, and my philosophy on farm is if you want to do it and it will fit on the farm, you go ahead and do it. So it doesn't necessarily have to be just the things that are involved with farming, like animals and growing plants and stuff like that. You can operate a business off of it. You could have a barbershop on farm. We've got a store on the farm. We've got a butcher shop on the farm. We've got a little cafe on the farm. And right now we only use the cafe for special events that we have to feed people. But I could see a day where you had a person that would stop by and just get something to eat. I could see that day. I can see it coming. All right. So people are getting used to coming to the farm. With our milk business, we have quite a bit of traffic that comes through. Moms mostly, they stop, get their milk, and then head out. One of our moms stopped by today. I happened to notice, I said hi to her, and she had two little kids. They couldn't wait to get out of the car, and they wanted to go over to where the goats and the calves were and do their petting, their cow cuddling and all that. And we encouraged that. And then they stopped by the outhouse and took a potty break. Mom sat with them for a little while. They played on the swings and away they went, But it's not necessarily a stop and go like you do at a store. It's more of a stop, relax for a little bit and see what's going on here. And I feel that's the way farms should be. So for me, I have to make sure that it's somewhat kid friendly. I don't want to have anything go wrong. So I look at the situation and I say, okay, well, this is a safe place for kids to be. I mean, if they're going to fall off a swing, there's nothing I can do about it. But, we keep them off the hay bales and all that stuff. Okay, so anyway, I would like to talk about Murphy's Law. And I'm talking about that because this morning, the conversation Jill and I had led to where are we going to dedicate resources for what we're doing. I'm going to have to close this door because too many mosquitoes are coming in. I'm getting attacked. My legs are getting chewed up. Which means it'll be a little warm in here. You guys won't know it, but you see me sweating. Mosquitoes are not usually a problem here because we usually have a little bit of wind coming up by the house. But today it's been very still and warm, and I think a lot of them are hatching out again. Just little ones. These are tiny little ones that land on you and bite instantly. I went over to one of the tribe members' house today. over to Martin's place just to see his fencing operation. I know he's been waiting for me for a while, and I saw him yesterday, and I said, yeah, I'll come over. He just lives a short distance from me. So I went over, and he had done a really nice job of building it's mimics our grow area. So it's 3 separate pens. He's got 2 of them built out pretty good, and he's working on the 3rd, and he's going to put pigs in there. And yeah, he's really enthused about what he's doing, and he's doing a good job. So I went over there about 5. I was supposed to be there about 4, but Aaron Esch stopped by to get his milk, and we sat down and yacked for a little while. And before I knew it, it was time for me to go. Okay, but in our conversation this morning, we're trying to decide where we're going to dedicate funds. And this weekend, we had gone down to some friends of ours, another tribe people, Copperhead, and they had some milk bottles that they weren't using, and they wanted to pass on to us. And we looked at how their setup was, which was really cool. And it gives you kind of a mirror to look into, and your mirror might be tipped a little, or theirs is tipped a little, so it makes you think different things than you would have prior to that. So I love visiting other farms because of that, because different people do things different ways. But they have a device called a milk plan. They milk about 5 cows. They're heading towards 10, same as us. And it is a bulk tank is what it is. And theirs is 33 gallons, and it's got a unit on the bottom of it. I got sawdust in my hair. And it refrigerates the milk, and it brings it down to temperature really quickly, right? And I had told her at one time that, if you sell that and upgrade to a bigger one, I'm interested in that. But when we were down there, they told us that, yeah, but you can't put more than about 15 gallons of milk in that because the cool down time is too slow. And so I started thinking, if we were to get one, I guess we would look for the 90-gallon one or the 60-gallon one, but more likely the 90-gallon one because of the direction that we're going. I can't say enough about milking cows right now. I can't. So, we left there, and we left like 10 o'clock at night, 2-hour ride home. We got home 1 o'clock in the morning, but had a whale of a time, and did a campfire there and had some good quality time with friends. And they're actually coming up to our house. They're stopping here to camp for a night and then heading north for a vacation up in the Upper Peninsula. So, yeah, we're discussing where we're gonna sink our resources, and I'm looking at these 90-gallon milk plans, bulk tanks, and I'm seeing price tags that are kind of worrisome. $5,000 to $10,000, and that's just kind of, and it would have to be a serious force multiplier. It would have to be a serious advantage for my operation to do that, because $5,000 or $10,000, I can spend that on lumber. I can build several new cabins with that. There's many things that I could do with that are waiting for me right now. And so that was sort of in my liability. That went in the liability column on my decision making. And I went down and milked with Frank, and then I'm the guy that's taking care of the milk, putting it in jars and getting it cooled down and all that stuff. And I started to think, there's got to be another way to do this. There's got to be another way to do this. That's not $7,000, right? And I started thinking, well, how could I do that? How could I do that? And I had a plan that I put together in my head. I could run some tubes into a refrigerator and cool down water and run it through a jacket on a tank, and maybe that would cool down quick. then I thought, nah, I don't think that it wouldn't be quick enough, right? And I came up with another idea and researched it. And online, I found they call it a recovery tank cooler. And it's a little device, little refrigeration device, and it's got a circulation pump. And if you want to cool down your bathtub to 37 degrees, you can do it. And then you can get in there and get your cold plunge done. By the way, we don't do that in the wintertime. We have to break ice to get in the cooling tank. In the summertime, we just take it at whatever temperature the pool is. And the idea is to get the heat out of your body. So you can either do it in a couple of minutes at 37 degrees, or you can do it in 10 minutes at 60 degrees. That's the way I see it. It's all about pulling the heat out of your body. There's one less one. I got him. All right. So I'm deep in thought about this. And I'm thinking there's got to be a way to do this. And then I started to see where people are cooling down tubs with bladders that they put in the freezer and then put in the tub and then wait a while. The tub gets down, the temperature gets down, then they get in. I thought, yeah, but that's kind of cumbersome. I don't know if I want to do that. And on it goes. Frank and I decided that we wanted to get some data. So what is the temperature of raw milk coming out of a cow? I didn't really know. I thought I knew, but I didn't really know. So we brought the milk into the kitchen down at the old butcher shop, the outdoor kitchen, and temped it. What did we get? 90 degrees. 90 degrees. I thought it was 100. That's what I thought raw milk came in at, but it came in at 90. And then we wondered, well, what is the temperature of the water coming out of our well? I always kind of say that it's about 50 degrees because that's kind of what I heard, but I've never really temped it. And so we pulled some water out, let it run for a while, tempt it, 61 degrees. Whoa, that's 10 degrees warmer than I always thought. So we tempt it again, 61 degrees. We used a different thermometer, 61 degrees. Okay, I guess it's 61 degrees. That changes things for me. So then we took the milk and we put the milk within the jar and we put it in a water bath at 60 degrees. We waited 10 minutes, temp the milk again. It had come down 10 degrees. So it had come from 90 to 80. Oh, this is good. Can we extrapolate this out and know that in 30 minutes it will be down to 60? Maybe, but that wasn't quick enough for what I'm looking for. I want that milk making a nosedive down to 38 degrees. 38 degrees is where it stabilizes and the bacterial action slows down to the point where it's almost stopped, right? So that's where I wanted it. If we want maximum shelf life of raw milk, it has to get down cold and then you can keep it in the fridge for 10 days and it's fine. And that wasn't quick enough for me. The way we do it now is we bottle the milk, we put it in the bath, we leave it in there until we're done bottling and cleaned up, and then it comes out of the bath and goes into the refrigerator. And then the refrigerator chugs and brings it down the rest of the way, and we get it down to 38 degrees. Now, I've never really checked to see how long it takes there, but I know that when I've gone to the refrigerator and taken milk out and brought it to the house and poured a glass of milk, within a half an hour, it's cold. And I've never temped it though, so I don't know exactly how cold, but it's cold to, my system when I drink it. So now I'm gathering data, and my mind is starting to really think analytically about how to do this and what is our goal. And then Murphy's Law kicked in. So you guys know I'm out of the aviation industry, and I went to a pretty good tech school when I was a young man. right out of high school, or almost just out of high school. East Coast Aerotech. I wish I could go to it again. Honestly, it was really, really good. And we had a bunch of guys teaching us that were all World War II vets coming out of the aviation industry, and they'd been trained by most of them had been trained in the Army Air Corps, so they had things that they said, and our military aviation is arguably the best in the world still, and the tradition carries on. So how do you know you have a good military? You don't crash planes. How do you not crash planes? You make sure they work as the engineers design them to work. But there is a law. It's one of those laws, I guess. It's a saying, maybe, but it's called Murphy's Law, and that law states if it can go wrong, it will go wrong, right? So the less complex a system is, then the more reliable it is. So we look at really complex systems, and then you can see, oh, it could fail here, could fail here, could fail here, could fail here. And you may not think of a refrigerator as a complex system, but it is. It is complex. It's just that they're really good at building them because they've been building them for a long time. Refrigerators are remove and replace, though. If a refrigerator fails, it's pretty hard to get a guy to fix the complex system within a refrigerator. If it's like the light on the inside goes out, or let's say it freezes up because there's a gap in the insulation, something like that. Yeah, that can be fixed. But let's say a compressor goes on it. You could buy another compressor, but you're probably better off getting a whole new refrigerator because they're really not that expensive. The refrigerator down in our shop, I found it. Jill found it on Marketplace, and we paid $75 for it. And we went and got it. The guy said it worked when he unplugged it. Got it home, still working. The temperature goes up, the temperature goes down with that little switch in there, and the freezer works good. And we've had it for 5 years, at least 5 years. And it's kind of junky looking, but I'm not interested in how it looks. I'm interested, will it cool the milk down? And it will. And we stress it out regularly because if you put 15 gallons of warm milk in there, that refrigerator is chugging to get the heat out of there continuously. So the runtime on it is really being maxed. And we figure if it fails, we'll get another one for $75 or $100 or $150. It's easy, I even have some that I'm not using right now that we would plug in and swap them out. So when I started to think that way, and then I started to think of my ability to engineer a system to cool down milk. I've got to engineer it, build it, and it's got to work. First time, I started thinking, I got too much to do. I can't dedicate any time to this. And will it work? That's the thing. I dedicate a lot of time to it, and will it work? And so that kind of took the whole notion of it and put it over here. It put it in the liability column, because I need this now, right? And then I started thinking about the milk plan configuration. That was put together by humans. I think Amish build them actually someplace. Maybe not. I don't know. But it's designed, and it's designed to work. But if it fails, then what? Now what? Now what do I do? If I get a brand new one, suppose it has a warranty for $10,000. I hope it has a warranty. But they come out of Kansas. Are they going to send a guy over? I don't know. And I started to take the milk plan idea and say, I don't know about this because it's very complex. Is there another way to do this that is easier? Is there another way? So I kept thinking about it, and I thought, wait a minute, all I have to do is look in the rear view mirror. Let's say I needed to cool down a case of Coke, all right? I used to do a lot of cooling of soda pop when I was a young man. And I needed it cool. How would I do it? Well, I used to get a cooler, and then when I was buying the soda pop, I would buy ice, and I would dump it in there. And by the time I got home, it would be cold enough that it was acceptable to share with my friends, right? It would be cold, and it would be real cold, right? If you left it in there for a while, you ever open up a cooler that's got water and ice in it and it's sloshing around? It's cold. I mean, sometimes it's too cold, right? Because it's right around that 34 degrees. And, when you first take a slug of it, it's kind of, ooh, that's cold, right? But that's what I want in the milk. I want the milk to get down to, I'd like it to get down to 35 degrees very, very quickly. And I don't want to spend a bunch of money to do it, right? Because like we talk about this all the time. If I invest in $100,000 pickup to go and get sheets of plywood, I can get less sheets of plywood because I'm driving a $100,000 pickup that I'm making $1,000 payment on. I'd rather have a 74 pickup that's been paid for 30 years that will get me there and get me home. I can put as much plywood on the back as I need, and I'm not too worried about making the payment on the truck, right? So that's my way of thinking here. The more cash that I have, the more I can invest into the operation, and then the operation generates more cash. So it's an abundant system. It grows. We take the same approach to soil building, take the same approach to livestock, take the same approach. You try to take that approach to everything. You take that approach to marriage. You can take that approach to cutting wood. You want it to get better in time. Okay, so as I continued to think about that, I thought, I'm going to try this. So I went down to the store. I drove down the store and I bought a 20-pound bag of ice, 22 pounds. It was $4. I brought it home. I had 10 gallons of milk in jars in a cooler. They fit in there very nicely. And I dumped the ice over them. There was water in there. I emptied it out. I temped the milk. The milk was at 76 degrees. So it was still diving. It was still coming down, but it only came down 6 degrees in the time that I went to the store and came back. That's not quick enough. And I probably burned about a half an hour going and coming, or 45 minutes. I stopped to talk to somebody on the way. So then I put 22 pounds of ice in there, right? I'm gathering data, so I'm going to give you the specifics. I didn't just put some ice in there. I put 22 pounds of ice. The 22 pounds of ice sat in there on top of the bottles and around the bottles and in between the bottles for about 15 minutes. 15 minutes. I went in and temped it, and I was all the way down to 55 degrees. Yeah, it cools it down quick. And when I looked at it, then I went to work. I'm doing some construction work, and I kind of forgot about it, but I knew that I was in the right place. So let's say every day I drove down to the store and I bought 22 pounds of ice, brought it back and dumped it at $4. 7 days a week times 4, $28 I'd have invested in my cooling. And so I look at that and I say, okay, well, I can do better than that. What could go wrong here, right? What could go wrong? Said Murphy. What could go wrong, right? So we're looking at this through Murphy's Law, eyeglasses, and we're trying to figure out, okay, where are the weak spots in this? Well, here's a weak spot right here. Get in the car, drive, and then drive back, that's a weak spot right there. I don't want that. Okay, how else could I do that? And so I kind of went through everything. And then I all of a sudden realized, whoa, I really only have to deal with ice when it's not wintertime out. In the wintertime, I can make ice outside. It doesn't cost me anything. And yeah, I can cool the milk with the ice coming from outside. Right. And I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do that. But I think ice trays outside, if you have a bunch of them and you set them out, maybe if I had, some sort of crate I could fill them up with real quick, put them in the crate and then set that outside. I could probably have, 5 or 6 crates out there full of ice trays. And when it's time, bring them in, crack them, dump the ice in, and then refill them and put them back out. I could do that. That's pretty darn reliable. And then I looked at that and I said, what could go wrong? And then all of a sudden, it occurred to me, global warming, right? That could go wrong. That could be really bad this winter. I hope not. And so then I started to kind of continue to think about it. Okay, how do I make ice? I got this refrigerator here. It's got a freezer on top of it. It's got an ice maker in it, for son of a gun. But I gutted it out, so I have more space in there. But it had an ice maker. So I knew there's such a thing as ice makers. I've never thought of that before. Honestly, never did. The one that we have in the house, the line going to it, I cut it off with a pair of dikes. We're not going to do that. We're just not going to do that. If we want ice, we'll put it in trays and put it in the freezer, and then we'll take it out. But I just didn't want to run a water line to it. Now, to me, that just seems, I don't know. I don't need that. So then I thought, well, what about a commercial ice maker? I wonder what those are all about. So I got online and I found ice makers brand new from $200 up to $2,000 and every place in between, right? There's all kinds of them. And then I looked at used ones. I found one that sold for $2,000 and the man was selling it for $800. And it's 6 months old. He lives up by Devon in Williamsburg. I could probably talk him down a little bit. So all of a sudden it's like, maybe we should have an ice machine in the milk house. So instead of the milk plan for better part of 10 grand sitting there cooling my milk, I'll have an ice machine sitting there. Well, the ice machine is pretty complex, you might say. I mean, it's got a lot of moving parts. It's got Freon. It's got all that stuff going on in it. What if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't work? And now I'm telling you this to get you on this thought plan, because one of the things that you do in homesteading and farming is you think. If you're at a, let's say, instead of doing this, you want to work at McDonald's. There's not a lot of thinking that goes on. You just make what you're told. You do what you're told. So it's kind of no mind. There's not a lot of thinking. If you're thinking about things off of work probably, or you're thinking about how frustrating it is to be in this place, or you're thinking about grabbing a Big Mac, going in the back room and chowing it down. I don't know what you'd be thinking about. I've never worked there, so I don't know. Kamala Harris has, though. So in this business, you get to think. And you have to weigh out what's the best way to go. So you may say, well, ice machine, that's a complex machine. You seem to be building your operation, your milk operation, around an ice machine. Well, I'm going to tell you that I beg to differ on that, right? So in the milk house, I have a lamp that goes on. Right now it's sitting on a reel, and it's got a chair sitting next to it. And sometimes I sit there and I read things if I need to read something. So I turn that light on, get my reading glasses on, and I can sit there and I can read stuff. If that light fails, It doesn't mean I'm not going to read what I got to read. I'll step outside, or I'll get a flashlight, or I'll go to the house and read it, right? It's not integral to the accomplishment of the mission. It is not. It's peripheral. So an ice machine, even though it would be a great convenience to just go and scoop ice out and put it in the milk, scoop out 20 pounds, and then the thing turns on and makes another 20 pounds. Some of them that I looked at would hold 100 pounds of ice. And as soon as you use it, it kicks in and it makes it and replenishes what you took out automatically. Okay, let's say it fails. Let's say for some reason the electricity goes out and the ice machine pooches. Okay, well, what's my redundancy program? Well, if the electricity goes out, then the generator comes on, the ice machine stays on, right? But let's say it just fails. It springs a leak and the Freon gets out and it's pooched. It's not going to work. Well, I still have my water bath. I can get the milk down to 60, 61. I can get it there. And then I can put it in the fridge just like I do now and bring it down the rest of the way. So I have plan A. Plan A is really good. It's a great plan. We used it today for the first time by putting 22 pounds of ice in the ice bath with 10 gallons of milk, and voila, it worked. And it cost $4, but probably $3 more than it should have if I had my own machine, because I can't think that making ice like that could be super tough on electricity. I just don't see it. But let's say it is, and it costs me $1 a day to run it. Let's say it costs me $2 a day to run it. So I have to look at that. And I looked at, okay, $2 a day to run this thing. Is it worth it? You pay $800 for it, and it costs you $2 a day. $2 a day to cool down your milk, 10 gallons of milk, that's worth $100. Yeah, I'd do that. So it weighed out, and it brings the milk down fast. So the quality of the milk goes up. My customers are going to be briefed on that the quality of the milk has just gone up because we changed our process slightly. And this is what we did. I will tell them, just like I'm telling you now. It's a good thing to think about, right? Well, we'll only be using the ice machine in the summertime or during the warmer weather. So spring, summer, fall. And then as soon as it gets into the wintertime, probably won't be using it anymore. Probably won't. Why would I if I have all that free cold outside? Actually, when it's cold outside, let's say it's down to 20-ish, that's the same temperature as the inside of the fridge. So I don't even need the fridge in that case. I can load the milk into coolers, set it outside with the top off, and our delivery starts about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It should, of course, I'll have to test it. It should cool down to where I want it. It should. We'll have to see. I'll have to test it. So I'll test it on a 20-degree day. I'll test it on a 30-degree day, and I'll see, what kind of rate of cooling we have when it comes to just the outside air temperature. And I could probably find that data someplace, but I think I want it for my own use. But Murphy's Law, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. So you think about putting milk outside. What could go wrong? It could cool down too quick. It could freeze, and it could break the bottles. Could happen. So how do we prevent that from happening? Well, we got to have our data. You got to know, at what point on a 20-degree day does the milk freeze? Well, that's not too hard to figure out. You just run a test. At what point on a 30-degree day? It's not that hard to figure out. What about when it's 0 out? You should be able to figure that out. And then you can as you look at the data, say, well, it's 20 out right now in the morning when we're milking. It's probably going to come up to 30. That's going to get me in the ballpark by 4 o'clock. I'm going to go for it. And not that I'm not going to monitor it during the day. I certainly will, which is not that hard to do. All you really have to do is go out there with a thermometer, even a laser thermometer, hit the side of the bottle with it. Ooh, gee, wow. This is at 32.5. That's it. I'm bringing them in. You know, that's getting on towards 32, which freezes. Expansion, broken bottle. I don't want that. Right. So, but Murphy's Law, I think it's a really good way to think about things when you are designing systems. I went over to Martin's today, right? And one of the things he said to me, he says, well, hey, don't worry about hurting my feelings. I'm looking for the weak spots in this system. So fire away. If something's not right, I need to know. Okay, that's basically consulting. That's what you do in consulting. This wasn't exactly consulting. We kind of hang out and have really good conversations, very good conversations, and I kind of rely on him for that, type of thing. And he's got different training than I have, and so he's a guy that I can go to and like, hey, what about this? And he will tell me, just like he comes to me and says, hey, what about this? And I will tell him. That's differs from consulting. That's when somebody hires me to go to their place. I don't know them, and then they want me to critique what they're doing or tell them what to do. That's a completely different thing. And it doesn't work where if they say, hey, I'm a machinist, come on out. And then if you ever need to know anything about machining, I'll tell you. Well, that's that. It doesn't really work that way, So anyway, although Rachel Jameson's husband's a machinist, and if she asked me to come out and look at their place, I sure would, because she's an expert in lots of things that I know nothing about, having to do with growing plants and intermingling species and just permaculture type things that I'm just not all that sharp on yet. I know what I know, but I know that there's a lot that I don't know. So when you have this thought process and you're putting your designs together, then it gets to be sort of like a chessboard. Well, I'm going to make this move, but what will happen when I do make that move? And you want to look at it from the point of view of, am I setting up a failure or a potential failure? So I had to say to Martin, hey, you've got trees in there. I don't know about these pine trees because I've never had pigs in pine trees, but I do know about those cedar trees. They're going to eat the bark off the bottom of them. They're going to go all the way around, and that will kill the tree. So potentially, you're going to have some dead cedars out here. I don't know about these popples. I've never had pigs in with popples, so I don't know what to tell you. I don't know if they'll eat them or not. But you're going to have to watch it. If they do girdle the tree is going to die and it will come down. But in his case, it's not a bad thing because he's a firewood heater type guy and he can handle trees. He's in a position where he can handle trees. So, but he did set up a potential failure that he didn't see. So it was nice to have somebody come in that's done this. I've had my pigs in a cedar swamp, and I never thought for an instant that they would eat the bark off of a cedar tree. Oh yeah, they did. Real quick. We had a bunch of dead cedar trees real quick, or at least girdled, and I knew that they would die. There's no bringing them back. Once the animal has eaten all the way around and there is a gap, and that these gaps were like this because they grab the bark and they eat that bark. Once you have that, the tree is not going to make it. Cows do the same thing. I had a calf, really nice little maple tree that I planted 2 years ago. I'm so proud of it. And I tied the calf to it. And what did the calf do? ate the bark almost all the way around. But there was a strip about like that, and I'm hoping that it will fill in because it does regenerate. But once you gap it, it's over. It's over. I don't know if there's a way to figure that one out. So you have the chessboard sitting there, and you're going to make a move. You're going to build something. Now you're going to have, as you keep going, and I will tell you, this is what happens. You get really good at pigs. And then one day you say, I think I'd like to have llamas on my farm. And then you think, well, do llamas and pigs go together? So now you have one chessboard, but then you have another chessboard that's sitting up above it. So moves you make on your pigs can affect another system, and the other system would be llamas. I don't know why anybody would want llamas, but I have butchered a few, and the meat is not bad. But and that's kind of an obscure example that I'm giving you. But let's just go back to my old faithful. You're running a chicken operation, pastured poultry. Let's say you have a few chicken tractors, maybe 5, and you're reloading them 4 times in the summer. Down where Belva lives, you can do that. And so that's a lot of chickens. Okay, you have to think it through. Well, how am I going to get them butchered? Because, guys that butcher chickens don't grow on trees. And even if they did, maybe those trees aren't in your neighborhood. How are you going to get your chickens there to be butchered? Very unlikely he'll come to you to do them. So what's the next move? I could give you some options. Maybe you look on the internet, you find somebody, hey, they're in the next town over, not too far. Okay, now you got to get them over there. You got to put them in a trailer. Okay, what could go wrong with putting them in a trailer? They'll travel okay. Is that right? They don't travel very well, especially birds that are heavy, are completely fed out. They don't travel very well, especially in the sun. So, there's some things that need to be thought through there. You could take one of our classes on chicken processing, and we'll show you how to set up, the ins and outs of it. And then how to process those chickens. Do them, a few every weekend. The big ones, do the big ones first, and get it done yourself. Actually, it's a lot less work than you think, and then you're in control of the situation. Once you lose control of a situation, you don't know what's going to happen. You bring chickens to somebody. I'll give you an example. There was a guy that moved in here, Amish guy, 2 miles from me. Our chicken processing business, pretty well established. This is our 20th year of processing chickens for other people. So we know what we're doing. All my kids have done it. Me and Jill, we've done a lot of chickens that have gone through here. We do maybe about 250, sometimes 400 a week. So we usually do 1 day, sometimes 2 days. And we're doing our birds in with other people's birds. It's a service that we're providing, basically. This guy moves in, Amish guy, and he asked me one time, could I buy your chicken processing business? And I said, what does that look like? And he says, well, your equipment and your customer list and all that stuff. Nah, I don't think so. It generates so much money for us. He would have to pay me a lot to buy me out of it. A lot. Like at least a couple seasons worth. And I don't even know if I'd do that, because I just don't know. They're our customers, and so we want to take care of them. And we built it up over time now. So I said, nah, I don't think so. And so he said, well, then I hope I'm not stepping on your toes, but I'm going to start my own. I said, you go for it. You go for it. So I stopped over there one time to see what he had, and they lack one thing that's kind of important, and it's refrigeration, right? So in their minds, it's you butcher the bird and then you leave it on the counter, and the customers come and pick it up, and then they take it home and refrigerate it. So it's sitting on the counter, hot. They just butchered it and they leaves it on the counter, and it sits there until people get out of work and they come and pick it up. I said, well, that's not going to work too well, but you keep up, you keep it going. I didn't tell him. He wasn't paying for my consulting. I was there for something else completely. A horse, actually, one of his, not mine. And then what happened? Oh, then some of our customers went to him. Why? Because he said, we can do it cheaper. He's Amish. And I got nothing against Amish, but that is their battle cry. We can do it cheaper. And so he could do it cheaper. And so some of our customers went there. And then we heard about it through the grapevine. Actually, we heard about it from some of the customers. What happened? One of the ladies that went there had been a customer of ours for a long time. And she went to him. She had her chickens in a trailer, like a snowmobile trailer that was closed in. I'll never forget this thing. And he also, the guy that was doing the butchering, he also raises hound dogs. I can hear him barking from here. Not anymore, he's gone. But a lot of Amish breed dogs, and then they sell them to the English, they call us, and I don't know. It's a sad situation. But one of his hound dogs, or several of his hound dogs, got out, and those hound dogs got in that trailer and killed every one of those chickens. And so I never found out what happened exactly, like who paid who, but the customer of ours that had gone there was highly upset, and then came back to us with her tail between her legs and said, no, you guys, I'm staying with you guys. And then another one went there, and they were also in a trailer, and all the chickens went to the back of the trailer, and it was a 2-wheel trailer, and then it went whoop. It pitched up. The trailer pitched up on the wheels, and the chickens that were on the bottom stayed on the bottom. The ones that were on the top stayed on the top, and half the chickens died. They got suffocated. And then the guy calls him, the customer, and says, you want me to butcher him anyway? It's like, no, I don't think so. I'll butcher a dead chicken. So anyway, that's some of the things that can go wrong if you get into a chicken butchering business. You can have those problems. We've had breakdowns too, never to that extent. We have had chickens or turkeys that we didn't know could fly, and away they went. Gonzo. Narragansett turkeys, they can fly good. Some of them I got with the trusty 22. Some of them I didn't. They're in the next county over, I reckon. Also, we had a customer that he wanted us to butcher them. And when he lifted the crate that they were in, the bottom poor condition, it fell through. About 10 of them fell out, and away they went. Just like robins, they were gone. There was no catching them. Even if you had a shotgun right there, you would have never caught them. So, but luckily he was the one unloading them. So he said, you should have known it was. So let's say you do have a chicken processing business. You think about a chicken processing business on your farm. I love to talk about this because there's more to it than just processing the chickens. There is the wastewater. There is the guts, heads, and feet. There is the feathers. All these things have to be considered, because what do you do with them? What do you do with the blood that you drain out of? Let's say you butcher 200 chickens. You're getting 10 gallons of blood out of 200 chickens. What do you do with that? You got to think these things through. And if you don't think it through, and let's say we'll put them in a wheelbarrow, we'll take them over here and we'll dump them, and then we'll put some leaves over them, you are going to have a mess like you never heard of. It's going to stink, and you're going to draw in lots of predators, and always the grossest ones like skunks and possums, if your dogs don't get into it. And then your dogs will get into the skunks and the possums, and they'll come back to the house with a mouthful of rotten guts and want to bring it in the house, and they've been sprayed by a skunk. So you have to consider these things in order for it to go straight and level. That's a term we use in the aviation industry. We want our airplanes to fly straight and level. And they're not going to if you don't pay attention to Murphy's Law. It's the same thing in farming. If you don't pay attention to the details, you will have train wrecks. And that train wreck will affect this train wreck, and so on and so forth. You can set up a domino effect of failure, 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 failure. You want to be going the other way where, okay, this system worked as advertised. The chicken butchering system worked really good. Butchered 200 chickens. Now I have 100 pounds of heads, feet, and guts. Wow. Is this going to be a liability or an asset? Oh, well, I happen to have some really nice pigs, Mangalitsa pigs, that I actually got from Sean Wise. So I've got these really nice Mangalitsa pigs. They like chicken. They like fresh chicken. It's kind of gross feeding them guts. No, it isn't. They're pigs, right? So I keep pigs. You guys know I have pigs. I have a feeder pen right now with about 18 in it. And then I have my sow pen that's got 6 sows in it, 5 sows in it. Yeah, 5. I can split the guts, head, and feet in 2 parts, take it out there, dump it. And by the time I were to get back out there in 15 minutes, you would never know that I even dumped it. They have eaten every last piece. Gone. No smell, no fuss, no muss. And what are they doing with it? They're turning it into high quality, the highest quality, if we're talking Mangalitsa, pork and fat. So I've taken a liability, the guts and feet and heads, and turned it into an asset. So I don't have to feed that day, for instance. I don't have to pay any money for feed that day. Right? So, and not only that, the people are paying me to butcher their chickens. So they're giving me money and feeding my pigs. So what does that set up? That sets up a win when it comes to fall and I'm butchering pigs. And then I go through the numbers and I say, gee, how much did I spend on feed this year? Every one of these pigs I butcher, if I part it out, I'm doing pretty good on them. I'd say 15 to 2,000 on them. They're parted out and sold. And then all the pieces, parts, we process them down as much as we can. How well did we do on them? Oh, we did really well. We did really well on them. Why? Because of this liability over here that I turned into an asset because I have this animal. So if you have a chicken butchering business and you keep milk cows, I can't see a fit there. It just doesn't seem to fit to me. There's no way that I can see a fit. So those two systems, they don't really go together. Say this farm is an airplane. You have all these different systems that really need to go together the best they can in order to keep this thing going straight and level. You have to have the systems fitting together. or they're separated. They're separated. They don't coincide at all. Do I have a system like that? I'm trying to think of one now. My answer is going to be no on that, because let's say Oh, milk cows. Well, gee, how do they fit in with pigs? Oh, I'll tell you how they fit in with pigs. A milk cow produces a lot of milk. Sometimes we have more milk than we have customers. If I have 5 gallons of milk and I can't match it up with somebody who wants it that's going to give me dollars for it, I have to turn, that would be a liability. Dumping milk down the drain, oh, I don't want to do that. That's a liability. That would just go against my grain. Hey, what if I take that milk, mix it in with junk bread or, day old bread, it's protein, then I can give it to the pigs. I'm not wasting anything. The pigs are getting the protein that they need. I was somebody here this weekend, and we went out to look at the pigs, and I just noticed their hair sparkles. Their eyes are bright. Their noses are wet, and they're even tempered. They all look really good. That's because they're getting the protein that they need. They're getting the carbohydrates that they need. They're getting good food. They're in a good environment, right? How else do those two things fit together? Let's say you do beef cattle and you do pigs. Well, how do those go together? Well, if you take your beef cow to the butcher and you say to the butcher, I want everything back that is edible, and the parts that we don't eat, I'm going to feed to my pigs. And the butcher's going to say, well, you can't have the head back because this is a USDA shop, and they say no, can't have the head back. And it's an old rule from when people used to use lead bullets to shoot a cow. They're thinking that the lead from the bullet is somehow going to get in the meat that's in the head, and then you're going to get the lead. And of course, lead is poisonous. I don't know how lead's going to get into flesh. I suppose if you got the bullet in a chunk of meat and you swallowed it, that would probably be detrimental. But before it leached into your system, you'd probably pass it. So I think that's probably pretty stupid. I know people that have bullets in them and they left them in them because it was more danger to get them out. So they left them in. Lead bullets too, or at least copper jacketed lead bullets, probably, maybe steel. I don't know. Depends where they get what. Anyway, so let's say that you have a beef operation and you have pigs. I have a beef operation and I have pigs. When I butcher my cattle, there are parts of that beef that I do not want yet. I'm sure that I could do something with it, but at this time, with the skill level that I have, I do not want the stomach. There's nothing there that I want. And if you've ever seen a beef's stomach come out, there's 100 pounds of chewed up grass in it. You may have seen a video one time where I decided that I wanted to see what that tastes like because I'd seen a film of a guy that was in the Arctic Circle and he shot a caribou and he was butchering it and he saw that green sage that the caribous were eating and he couldn't help himself and he ate some of it and he was like, this is awesome. Because, he's up in the Arctic Circle. He's not getting, nice salads and green beans or anything like that. He's basically living on meat and fish. And so he ate a lot of that, right? And so I saw him eating that and I thought, I wonder what that tastes like. To me, I thought it would taste like, don't ask me why I thought this, but I thought it would be sort of like spinach, or I thought it would be salty or like kimchi. I thought. It wasn't, but it didn't taste gross. It tasted like, how you can taste something and say, well, it tastes like this smells, right? Because those two senses are close, but it tasted like a pile of green grass that you dumped a couple weeks ago, and then you go looking for worms in it to go fishing. That's what it tasted like. It wasn't bad, but it didn't exactly tickle my palate, and it's not like I took another bite. I shouldn't say that. My kids see this, they're going to say, liar, liar, because I ate some and everybody was, oh, it's gross. And my son Joe said, hey, do it again. I want to film it. And so I did. All right. I did it. It's done. Those kids have eaten way grosser stuff than I have. Way grosser stuff. Sort of a rite of passage around here. So, should be reading the comments. So let's say I butcher a beef and I have this stomach. I have no use for it. Yeah, I could put it on the compost pile. Putting it on the compost pile in December, nothing's going to come of it. You know, the compost pile is pretty well shut down unless I've been turning it all the time, but I don't because I got enough to do. But the pigs would like it. They'd like it just fine. You put it in there, they eat all of that chewed up grass or hay. They eat all the outside. They will fight over it and tear it up and chow it right down. And it's gone. It is gone. We do like a little bit of beef liver, but it's not a real hot seller, right? And so let's say you're doing quite a few beef, you got a lot of liver. And if people don't want it, you can take up freezer space with it for something that people don't want, or it's legitimate protein for the pigs as well as the chickens. Okay, so those two things dovetail right there. They start to mesh, right? And then you have the intestine situation. Ooh, nobody wants the intestine because what's in the intestine? That's full-blown manure in there. And I don't want to fool around with that, even though we kneel down in it, we walk around in it, it's a way of life. If you have a beef operation or a milk operation, it's just there. But the intestines, that's probably another 75 pounds. Once it comes out of the animal, put it in the front end loader. And then that goes to the pigs too. They will eat it all. And those big brown clobs that are in there, they will eat that, right? It's gone. And they're quite happy to get it. Anything else that I can think of? We don't do much with the lungs, except maybe blow them up to gross people out. We just don't do much with them. Jill's made lung soup out of pig lungs. It's okay. It's okay. It's got a kind of a weird texture to it, but it tastes good. I don't like to feed pigs to pigs, so I don't do that. If I had pig lungs from a butchering that I was doing and we didn't want them, that will go to the chickens. It's legitimate protein, and they will wipe it out. And it's good for them. They need protein too. Let's see, what else? Well, you get the idea. I mean, there's going to be other parts of the beef that you don't particularly want, and it can always go to the pigs. I've seen chunks of hide go in there and they get torn up and eaten, but I don't do it because then they're dragging it around. And if people come to visit, they're kind of like, ooh, it looks rough. So that's not good. Hides, we either, well, I can say we do this, but we really don't. We either tan them and make clothes out of them, which we really don't. We want to someday, but and we've attempted to, like we've hung them up, we've gotten that far, and then they hang there for 3 weeks, and you're like, I got to get the tan in that, and then 4 weeks, and then 2 months, and then it's like, put it in the compost pile. Just get it out of there. I don't want to see it anymore. So we haven't actually done that. Now, we have done some tanning of different hides. And I think the way to approach that with a beef hide is cut it into sections that are small that you can handle. because a beef hide is huge. And to try and handle that, flesh that whole thing, forget it. Be nice if it was 3 feet by 3 feet and you had 6 sections like that and you worked them that way. That would be doable, in my opinion. And that's on my list of stuff I'm going to do, right? But that generally goes in the compost pile and kind of sits there. I've put them on the compost pile with the hide side, with the fur side down, and then the birds take care of it. They eat every piece of flesh off of it, and it's just gone. Bones, stuff like that. If we don't make bone broth out of it, we will put that in with the chickens, and the chickens will pick every little piece of meat off there. And then by the time spring comes, we've got all these great bones sitting out there that we can collect up. By then they're dry, and we can bring them up and make biochar out of them. And then we crush that up, and that goes in the compost pile or it gets sold. So there is no waste. And I mentioned the head before. If you take the time, if you butcher a beef and you take the time skinning that head out, there's actually quite a bit of meat on that head that you really don't want to let go. You certainly don't want to let the tongue go. That is some good stuff right there. It just takes a little to get over that barrier of seeing a tongue laying on a platter, you know. But best way is probably to, you know, cook it up and then cube it and put it in other things, because the meat has a tremendous flavor and it's just really nice. So there you go. I mean, any system that you're setting up on your homestead should dovetail. And when you're putting these systems together, you need to be thinking with Murphy's mindset. And take notice of what I did in gathering data, because if you have to make a decision where the failure points are, you need data. You need hard data. Okay, milk is 90 degrees. Groundwater 61 degrees. It's this many feet from here to here. You really need hard data. What does a roll of fencing wire cost? It's this much. You should have these numbers in your head to be doing this effectively. And I think becoming a wealth of information about farming, I know people who are a wealth of information that do not farm, but they study the internet. They can give you the answers you want. Do they farm? No, but they're halfway there. Maybe quarter of a way there. I think information is something that's always good. We have a tendency to say, well, that guy doesn't even farm. You know, what does he know? Well, I don't know about that. I think the information is definitely a component that you need to do this effectively. Anyway, it's 9:14. I've had a long day. I got a couple of things to do before I can come in. Got to go out and feed my calves and put my last stair in on the way up to the apartment. I want to see that done before I come in. Then I can't wait to see the debate. I don't think I really know what time it started, but I'll watch it on YouTube anyway. I think it should be fun. Along the lines of that and politics and everything that's going on, you've heard me say this, but I'm going to say it again. Focus on what's in front of you. Focus on things that you have control over. You know, I'm not saying don't watch politics, but watch it as though you're watching sort of an episode of Yellowstone. You know, it's not real. It doesn't really affect what you're doing. Not really. You know, price of fuel. Yeah, I mean but it's a slow turn, right? But the things that you do, the direct things that you do, like for instance, right now, right before I came in, I was building a set of stairs to go up to the second story of the milk house. I'm building an apartment up there. And when Robert Kennedy comes to visit me, I'm going to have him stay there. So I got to really work on that. Which that reminds me of something. And I got 3 of the 4 stairs up before I had to come in. The last one, I cut it, tried to fit it in just a little too long. I'm looking at the time. I don't even have, I can't do it. I'm not going to make it if I cut this and fit it in. So I dusted myself off and came up. But I have this drive right now to go out and feed the calves. And before I come in and watch the debate, I'm going to finish that set of stairs because it's real. You know, it'd be really fun. It'd be fun to see old Kamala fall flat on her face tonight. That'd be fun. It'd be fun if Trump makes her cry. It'd be great. It'd be fun. But it's not going to build those stairs. It's not going to feed my calves. It's not going to, the thought, you know, the intense thinking that I do about this operation, that's what changes things, not that debate. Even though it's fun, even though like a football game can be fun, and I'm not saying never watch football. It's not fun for me anymore, but really focus on what you're doing and what you want to accomplish. Where do you want to go with this? Where can you go with this? Be bold. Look out there and see the buildings that you need to do the operation you want. See them. That's the first step. How big does it need to be? Well, let me go out there and walk it off. Let me go out there and put some stakes down. Well, I got the stakes down. You know, I'm not kidding. Be bold with this. Along those lines, if you go to my Facebook page, you will see something that I posted today. I'll put it on the tribe too. I was trying to do it, but I ran out of time. And it's a documentary. It's actually kind of a trailer, but it is about food security. And this is the one I was telling you about that Nicole Shanahan had Brandon Goodyear create. And he came up here and did a bunch of filming and sat me down for an interview. And I was in it quite a bit. And so were my kids and the operation. We were right at the front of it. And I think it's well done. I think it falls short of solutions. Quit your complaining about the way it ought to be. That doesn't fix stuff. We ought to be able to put a man on the. Oh, well, let me rephrase that. We ought to be able to, fly at Mach 1. We ought to be able to do that. Get out there and start testing the airplanes. Get your metallurgy up. Get your slide rulers going. Start working on it. Don't say we ought to be doing it. If farming needs to change in the United States, you are the one that has to change it. You can't just say out into the ether, well, this has to change. What, we were going to try and convince the USDA to change farming? We're going to try and convince Michigan Department of Agriculture to change farming? No, do it in spite of them. Just be the change, right? Okay, I got pretty fired up in the interview. They didn't play the parts that they sent to me. They sent me some today, and I thought, ooh, somebody could take that the wrong way, talking about tomahawks and things like that. But in the one that they released to the public, it's a little mellower, but it's definitely me, and I had a sunburn, so I thought I looked pretty good. I got full of myself. Keith Sutton says, I watched it. It was very, very good. It's a lot better than watching the debate. I probably fall asleep during the debate. How could you fall asleep during that when you're thinking that Kamala could start crying or walk off the stage or call Trump a name, and make an ass out of herself? It could happen. I thought the other debate, I thought I could care less about what Biden's policies are. I was watching it sort of like I would watch the Indy 500. I'm here for the crashes. Come on. Let's see some crashes. Man, I could care who wins. I don't really care who wins. I mean, I think President Trump, I definitely want him to win now, definitely, because he's got Bobby Kennedy on his team and Nicole Shanahan's on that team. So in reality, in theory, let's say in theory, started off in reality. No, let's theoretically, I can call the guy who produced this movie. I can call him. He will answer the phone because I've called him several times and he has answered the phone. I could call him and I'd say, could you help me get a phone call to Robert Kennedy? I don't know if he would, but prior to knowing him, I didn't know anybody that could help me get a phone call to Robert Kennedy if I had something that I really needed to share with him or I needed a favor or something. But now I actually can. And so let's say I talk to Robert Kennedy, which it could. I mean, he's a senator, but he's a down-to-earth guy. I've seen a couple interviews that he did, and he seems like a guy that would take a phone call from somebody that was in one of his movies, right? Could happen. And let's say I said to him, you know, Bobby, is there any chance that I could get a phone call in to President Trump? He may say yes, he may say no, but prior to this time, how could you call President Trump? His number's not in the book. I don't have a cell phone. You know, if I call the White House, is President Trump in? It's not going to happen. You're not going to get through to him. But, you know, some of the things that we talk about here are solution orientated. So I don't want to hear any more about the way it ought to be. I only want to hear about what you can do. Think it through. And then think, can I get this done? Well, I'm going to try. What are the parts I need? What are the tools I need? What are I'll fill in the blanks. This is what I got. Now, can I do it? Well, it requires a little welding here. I don't know how to weld yet. So get that done. Go learn how to weld. You know, well, you want to set up an operation like this, like ours, and say, yeah, but I don't know how to butcher chickens. Yet. Go learn. Find somebody who'll teach you how to do it. Come here, take a class. We'll teach you how to do it. And then you can set up a chicken butchering operation, and then you can do it cheaper, although I doubt it. All right, I got to go. Appreciate everybody coming by. We do not have a consulting call tomorrow night. We had one last week. And so we will be seeing you next Tuesday, unless I put out a video before then talking about raw milk, which is what I'm geeked on right now. So that's what I think about. All right. Remember, anyone